Settle then, find a comfortable position. Let the weight of the day begin to dissolve as we journey together through time and understanding. Tonight, we're going to explore something deeply human, the story of reproductive choice, bodily autonomy, and the long, winding path that has brought us to where we are today. It's a story of women, of families, of medicine, of faith, and of the ever-present question, who decides what happens to a person's own body? Spoiler alert, for most of history, the answer has been not the person whose body it is, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Whatever you have experienced, whatever you feel about this topic, you're welcome here. There is no judgment in this space, only reflection, and the occasional raised eyebrow at the absurdity of it all. Take a slow breath, and let's begin. Long before modern politics, before cable news debates and viral tweets, humans have always sought ways to control their fertility. This is not a new conversation. It is, perhaps, one of the oldest conversations in human history, right up there with what's that noise outside the cave. And do you think that barrier is poisonous? In ancient Egypt, around 1550 BCE, the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical documents we've ever found, contained recipes for contraceptive preparations. Women would mix honey, acacia leaves, and lint to create barriers. It wasn't exactly pharmaceutical grade, but they were working with what they had, and they were working with intention. The ancient Greeks spoke openly about these matters. Aristotle wrote about population control, because of course he did. The man had opinions about everything. Hippocrates, the father of medicine himself, was familiar with both contraceptive and abortive techniques. The famous Hippocratic Oath, often cited today by people who've never actually read it, was actually a minority position in its time. Most Greek physicians did not follow its restrictions. In Rome, the paterfamilias, the male head of household, held power over reproductive decisions. But women, too, found ways to manage their own fertility. Silphium, a plant so valued for its contraceptive properties that it was harvested to extinction, appears on ancient Roman coins. Its heart-shaped seed pod may even be the origin of our modern heart symbol. Think about that next time you send a heart emoji. You're essentially texting ancient birth control. The desire to control one's own fertility is ancient. It is human. It predates every modern religion, every current nation, every political party that exists today. And yet, somehow, we're still arguing about it. Progress. As we move forward through time, into the medieval period, we encounter a shift. The Catholic Church was consolidating its power across Europe, and with that power came increasing interest in regulating intimate aspects of human life. Because nothing says spiritual authority like telling people what to do in their bedrooms. But here's something that might surprise you. For much of Christian history, the Church did not consider early abortion to be equivalent to murder. The concept of ensoulment, the moment when a fetus receives a soul, was hotly debated by theologians for centuries. And by hotly debated, I mean men in robes arguing about things they could not possibly verify. Saint Augustine, writing in the 4th and 5th centuries, followed Aristotle's view that the soul entered the body at quickening, the moment when the pregnant woman first felt fetal movement, typically around 16 to 20 weeks. Before that point, terminating a pregnancy was considered a lesser sin, more akin to contraception than to homicide. Thomas Aquinas, perhaps the most influential Catholic theologian in history, agreed. In the 13th century, he wrote that the embryo was first vegetative, then animal, and only later, after quickening, did it receive a rational human soul. So according to Aquinas, early pregnancy was basically a houseplant situation. This distinction persisted in church teaching for hundreds of years. It wasn't until 1869, under Pope Pius Roman IX, that the Catholic Church officially declared that ensoulment occurred at conception, making all abortion equivalent to murder in church doctrine. Think about that. The position that many today consider eternal, unchanging religious truth is actually less than 200 years old. It's younger than the bicycle. It's younger than the telegraph. The ancient teaching is newer than canned food. Religious positions on abortion have changed before. They are not as fixed as they sometimes appear. The church has flip-flopped more than a pancake at a Sunday breakfast. When European colonists arrived in what would become the United States, they brought with them the English common law tradition. And under English common law, abortion before quickening was not a crime. The founders, those men whose intentions are so often invoked in modern political debates, usually by people who assume the founders would agree with them, lived in a world where early abortion was legal and relatively common. Benjamin Franklin himself published a medical guide that included instructions for restoring the menses, a common euphemism for ending an early pregnancy. Yes, that Benjamin Franklin, the one on the $100 bill. Kite guy, founding father, apparently also helpful with reproductive healthcare tips. Throughout the early 1800s, newspapers openly advertised abortifacient medicines. Madame Ristel, perhaps the most famous abortionist of 19th century America, operated openly in New York City for decades, serving wealthy and poor women alike. She was controversial, certainly, but she was not illegal. Not at first. She even advertised in newspapers with her name on it. The criminalization of abortion in America came later, in the mid to late 1800s, and it came not from religious movements, but from the newly professionalized medical establishment. The American Medical Association, founded in 1847, led the campaign to outlaw abortion. Their motivations were complex. Some physicians genuinely believed, based on new understanding of embryology, that life began at conception. But there were other factors too. Male physicians were competing with female midwives and healers who had traditionally provided reproductive care. Criminalizing abortion was, in part, a way to eliminate this competition. Nothing says ethical medicine like outlawing your competitors. By 1900, Abortion was illegal in every state except to save the life of the mother. This was not a return to some ancient tradition. It was a new development, a product of professional politics, turf wars, and the desire to control women's changing roles in society. Before we continue, a gentle note: the next few chapters contain some visceral history and may be a little demanding on the mind. If you need to, let your thoughts drift. The words will still be here. Take care of yourself as we move through this together. When abortion became illegal, it did not stop. It never stops. It simply becomes dangerous. This is a pattern that repeats throughout history, and yet somehow we keep having to learn it again. From 1900 to 1973, American women who needed to end pregnancies faced an impossible choice: carry an unwanted pregnancy to term, with all its life-altering consequences, or risk death. The wealthy had options. They could travel to other countries. They could find sympathetic private physicians who would quietly perform the procedure and record it as something else. They could afford discretion and safety. The wealthy always have options. That's sort of the defining feature of being wealthy. The poor had no such options. They turned to back-alley abortionists, to coat hangers, to knitting needles, to bleach, to throwing themselves downstairs. The desperation was beyond what most of us today can imagine. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, it's estimated that illegal abortions caused the deaths of 2,700 American women each year. 2,700 mothers, daughters, sisters gone, not from abortion itself, but from the lack of safe, legal abortion. Hospital wards were filled with women suffering from botched procedures. Septic abortion wards became a fixture of urban hospitals. Doctors and nurses watched women die, knowing that simple, safe procedures could have saved them, but the law forbade it. And for what? Studies consistently showed that laws against abortion did not reduce abortion rates. Women who needed to end pregnancies found ways to do so, regardless of the law. The only thing criminalization accomplished was death, injury, and suffering. These women deserved better. Their suffering was not inevitable. It was a policy choice. Change came slowly, and then all at once, as change tends to do, usually right after everyone in power has insisted change is impossible. In the 1960s, a rubella epidemic swept through the United States. Rubella, also known as German measles, is mild in adults, but catastrophic for developing fetuses. Thousands of women who contracted the virus early in pregnancy faced the near certainty that their babies would be born with severe disabilities. Many of these women sought abortions. Some found sympathetic physicians. Others were turned away, forced to carry doomed pregnancies to term. The cruelty of forcing women to give birth to children they knew would suffer and die young sparked public outrage. At the same time, the thalidomide tragedy unfolded. This sedative, prescribed for morning sickness, caused severe birth defects, children born without arms or legs. Sherry Finkbein, an Arizona television host who had taken thalidomide, sought an abortion and was denied. Her case made national headlines, and public sympathy was overwhelmingly on her side. The women's movement was rising. Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique had named the quiet desperation of housewives trapped in limited roles. Women were entering the workforce in greater numbers, pursuing education, demanding control over their own lives. And they understood, perhaps better than anyone, that without control over reproduction, no other freedom was secure. Clergy, too, began to speak out. In 1967, a group of Protestant ministers and Jewish rabbis formed the Clergy Consultation Service on Abortion, openly helping women find safe and legal abortions. Their faith called them not to judgment, but to compassion. Imagine religious leaders prioritizing compassion. Revolutionary. State by state, laws began to change. Colorado, California, New York, reformers chipped away at the prohibitions. By 1970, New York had legalized abortion on request, and women from across the country traveled there for safe procedures. And then came Roe v. Wade. In January 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution protected a woman's right to choose abortion, at least in the early stages of pregnancy. The decision was 7-2, with 5 Republican-appointed justices in the majority. This was not, at the time, a partisan issue. That would come later, once someone figured out how to fundraise off it. The relief was immense. The septic abortion wards began to close. Deaths from unsafe procedures plummeted. Women could make their own choices, consult their own consciences, control their own futures. For almost 50 years, that was the law of the land. But the story doesn't end there. Almost immediately after Roe, a new movement began to organize against it. Because nothing unites people quite like telling them they should be outraged. What's fascinating and important to understand is that evangelical Protestants did not initially oppose abortion. In 1968, the Southern Baptist Convention passed a resolution supporting the legalization of abortion in certain cases. The year after Roe, they reaffirmed this position. W.A. Criswell, the former president of the Southern Baptist Convention and one of the most influential evangelical leaders of the 20th century, said in 1973, "I have always felt that it was only after a child was born and had a life separate from its mother that it became an individual person." So what changed? The answer is politics. In the late 1970s, conservative strategists were looking for issues that could unite evangelical Christians and bring them into the Republican coalition. They initially focused on defending racial segregation in Christian schools. Bob Jones University had lost its tax-exempt status for refusing to admit black students. But that issue was too obviously racist to serve as a rallying cry. Even for the 1970s, abortion was more promising. It could be framed in moral terms. It could appeal to genuine religious convictions while also serving political ends. Paul Weyrich, one of the architects of the religious right, was explicit about this strategy. Jerry Falwell's Moral Majority, founded in 1979, made opposition to abortion a centerpiece of its platform. Within a decade, evangelical opinion had shifted dramatically. What had been a nuanced position became absolute opposition, and this opposition was increasingly tied to Republican Party politics. This matters because it helps us understand that the pro-life movement is not simply a religious phenomenon. It is a political movement, deliberately constructed, that uses religious language to achieve political goals. Many of the organizations that fight most vigorously against abortion rights also oppose contraception and comprehensive sex education, the very things that actually reduce abortion rates. It's almost as if reducing abortion isn't really the point. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough: money. Specifically, who has it and who doesn't, and how that determines who gets to make choices about their own body. The decision to have a child is one of the most economically significant choices a person can make. Children are wonderful. They bring joy and meaning. They also cost approximately $300,000 to raise to age 18, and that's before college. Children are essentially very small, very expensive roommates who don't pay rent and break your things. For families already struggling, an unplanned pregnancy can mean the difference between stability and poverty, between staying in school and dropping out, between building a career and losing one. Research consistently shows that access to abortion improves women's economic outcomes. A groundbreaking study called the Turnaway Study followed women who sought abortions for 5 years, both those who received them and those who were turned away. The results were striking. Women who were denied abortions were more likely to fall into poverty. They were more likely to stay in abusive relationships. Their existing children were more likely to suffer developmental delays and poverty. Women who received wanted abortions were more likely to achieve their educational and career goals. Their wanted children, born later, fared better. Consider a young woman working her way through college. She's the first in her family to attend. She has dreams, plans, a future taking shape. An unplanned pregnancy in a country with minimal parental leave, no universal childcare, and no guaranteed healthcare could derail everything. Consider a woman in an abusive relationship. She's planning her escape, saving money secretly, protecting her children. A pregnancy would tie her to her abuser for 18 more years. It could cost her life. These are not hypotheticals. These are the real situations that drive real women to seek abortions every single day. To deny them the choice is to trap them in circumstances not of their making. Let's talk about the sanctity of life. It's a phrase we hear often in debates about abortion. It sounds beautiful. Who could be against the sanctity of life? It's like being against puppies or sunshine. But let's think carefully about what it means and how it's applied. If life is truly sacred, then we should expect those who invoke this principle to act consistently. We should expect them to oppose the death penalty, which takes human life. We should expect them to support healthcare as a human right. We should expect them to demand action on poverty, on hunger, on the environmental degradation that kills millions. We should expect them to welcome refugees fleeing violence and death. But this is often not what we find. Many of the same voices that proclaim the sanctity of life when opposing abortion support capital punishment. They oppose universal health care. They cut food programs for hungry children. They separate families at borders. They deny the climate crisis that threatens all life on Earth. This inconsistency suggests that sanctity of life is not really the principle at work. Something else is going on. Sister Joan Chittister, a Benedictine nun, put it this way: I do not believe that just because you're opposed to abortion, that makes you pro-life. In fact, I think in many cases, your morality is deeply lacking if all you want is a child born, but not a child fed, not a child educated, not a child housed. That's not pro-life. That's pro-birth. Pro-birth, not pro-life. It's a distinction worth sitting with. The countries that have the lowest abortion rates in the world are not the countries with the strictest laws. They're countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, places with comprehensive sex education, easy access to contraception, strong social safety nets, and yes, legal abortion. They support families so well that fewer families face impossible situations. Meanwhile, countries that ban abortion entirely, like El Salvador, where women have been imprisoned for miscarriages, have abortion rates just as high as anywhere else. The procedures are simply more dangerous. Women die. That's not sanctifying life. That's sacrificing it. Now, in fairness, let's engage honestly with the strongest version of the opposing view, because this is a meditation, not a rally, and even at this hour we can hold complexity. The core argument is simple: abortion is murder. A new human life begins at conception. From that moment, a unique being exists with its own DNA, its own potential, its own claim to existence. To end that life deliberately is to kill a human being, and we have a word for deliberately killing innocent human beings: murder. This is not a frivolous argument. It is held sincerely by millions of people, and it has a certain logical clarity. If you accept the premise that personhood begins at conception, the conclusion follows inexorably. You don't get to kill people because they're inconvenient. You don't get to end a life because the timing is bad. The fetus is innocent. The fetus has rights. The fetus deserves protection. For those who hold this view, the comparison to other historical injustices is not rhetorical excess. They genuinely believe that future generations will look back on legal abortion the way we look back on slavery, as an obvious moral horror that we somehow fail to see. They believe they are on the right side of history, fighting for the voiceless, and they believe that pro-choice advocates are engaged in a kind of collective denial, using euphemisms like clump of cells or product of conception to avoid confronting what is actually happening. They see ultrasound images of tiny hands and feet and ask, how can you say this is not a person? This argument deserves respect, even from those who disagree with it. But the premise is precisely what is contested. When does personhood begin? At conception, at implantation, at the first heartbeat, which is actually just electrical activity, not a formed heart, at viability, at birth, at the development of consciousness. Different cultures and traditions have answered this question differently throughout history. We've already discussed how the Catholic Church itself didn't settle on conception until 1869. The question is genuinely difficult, and in the face of genuine difficulty, who should decide? Here's the thing, even if we grant that the fetus is a person, bodily autonomy arguments still apply. We don't force parents to donate organs to their dying children. We don't force anyone to use their body to keep another person alive, no matter how innocent that person is. The right to life does not include the right to use someone else's body without consent. But let's go further. Let's explore, gently, the case that abortion is not murder. Murder is the unlawful killing of a person. Both words matter, unlawful and person. For most of human history, and in most of the world today, abortion has been lawful, so by definition, not murder. But that feels like a technicality. Let's think more deeply. What makes a person? This is one of the oldest questions in philosophy, and there are no easy answers. But consider, personhood seems to require more than human DNA. Cancer cells have human DNA. A brain-dead patient on life support has human DNA. We don't consider removing a tumor to be killing a person, or switching off life support to be homicide, even though human cells cease to function. What makes a person seems to be something more: consciousness, perhaps, the capacity to experience, to feel, to have interests, to be aware. An early embryo has none of these qualities. It has no brain. It has no nervous system. It cannot feel pain. The neural pathways for pain don't develop until at least 24 weeks. It has no thoughts, no experiences, no awareness that it exists. It is potential life, yes, but potential is different from actual. A blueprint is not yet a building. An acorn is not yet an oak tree. Even in later stages of pregnancy, when the brain has begun to form, the fetus still has not experienced anything. It has never seen light, never heard a voice, never felt love or fear or wonder. It has no memories, no relationships, no sense of self. It exists in a state before experience, a state we cannot truly imagine, because to imagine is already to have experienced. And here is something worth sitting with. The language of protecting the innocent doesn't quite fit. Innocence, as a moral concept, implies the capacity for its opposite. We call someone innocent when they have refrained from doing wrong, when they have chosen good over evil. But a fetus has made no choices. It has no capacity for choice. It is not innocent in any meaningful sense. It is simply pre-moral, existing before the categories of innocence and guilt apply. And if the fetus has no capacity for choice, if it cannot decide, cannot consent, cannot act, then perhaps the only person in this situation who can make a choice is the woman carrying it. Something is growing inside her body. She is the one who will bear it, birth it, or not. She is the one whose life will be transformed. She is the one who is conscious, aware, capable of weighing consequences and making decisions. If anyone has the right to choose, surely it is her. By the same logic, a fetus also has the potential to become someone who does great harm. Every tyrant, every abuser, every cruel person who ever lived was once a fetus. We don't know what any potential person will become. The fetus is not a pure soul waiting to bless the world. It is an unknown, a possibility, a story not yet written. To speak of protecting the innocent is to project onto the fetus a moral status it cannot yet possess. It is potential innocence, yes, but it is also potential everything else. This doesn't mean a fetus has no value. It simply means we should be precise about what kind of value it has, and what kind of claims we can honestly make on its behalf. Consider, too, that up to 50% of fertilized eggs never implant in the uterus. They pass naturally, often before the woman even knows conception occurred. If every fertilized egg is a person, this would be a staggering loss of life, far exceeding all other causes of death combined. Most of us don't mourn these losses because intuitively we sense that fertilization alone does not create a person. Consider also the puzzle of identical twins. They form when a single fertilized egg splits into two. If personhood begins at conception, what happens in that moment of splitting? Was there one person who became two? These questions aren't meant to be clever gotchas. They simply show how complex the biology is and how difficult it is to draw bright lines. The pro-choice perspective is not that life doesn't matter. It's that potential life and actual life exist on a continuum, and reasonable people can disagree about where on that continuum full moral status begins. Many thoughtful people believe that a first trimester embryo, while valuable, is not yet equivalent to a born child, or to a woman with relationships and experiences and a life already being lived. There's also a practical question. If abortion truly is murder, what would follow? Should women who have abortions face murder charges? Life sentences? What about miscarriages? Should those be investigated as potential crimes? What about IVF, which routinely creates embryos that are never implanted? Most people, even those who oppose abortion, feel uncomfortable with these implications. Perhaps that discomfort is telling us something, that our moral intuitions are more nuanced than the word murder allows. The counter-argument is real. It is sincere. It deserves engagement, not dismissal. But it is not the only way to see this question, and the people who see it differently have also thought carefully. They have wrestled with these questions. They have reached conclusions that are, in their own way, defensible. The debate continues. It probably always will. Perhaps the most we can do is approach it with humility, recognizing that certainty is easier than wisdom, and that people of good faith can disagree. Let that complexity rest in your mind. There are no easy answers here, only the ongoing human attempt to navigate the hardest questions we face. Now let's turn to medicine. the reality of what abortion is and what it is not. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and some of it is so creative you almost have to admire the imagination involved. First, let's be clear. Abortion is one of the safest medical procedures in existence. It is significantly safer than childbirth. A first trimester abortion carries less risk than a colonoscopy, less risk than a tonsillectomy, less risk than keeping your wisdom teeth. If you've ever had your wisdom teeth out, congratulations. You've had a riskier procedure than most abortions. The vast majority of abortions, over 90%, occur in the first trimester, when the embryo is smaller than a grape. At this stage, medication abortion is possible. 2 pills taken at home that induce what is essentially an early miscarriage. It is private, it is safe, and it is between a person and their doctor. The later abortions that attract so much political attention, those after 20 weeks, are rare, making up about 1% of all procedures. And they are almost always tragedies, not choices made lightly. These are wanted pregnancies. These are babies with names picked out, nurseries painted, siblings excited, and something has gone terribly wrong. The fetus has a condition incompatible with life, or the pregnant person has developed a life-threatening complication. These families face the most painful decisions imaginable. And then they face legislators who have never met them, never heard their stories, telling them what they must do. Politicians with no medical training override the judgment of doctors. It's like having your plumber write your prescription. Medicine is complex. Pregnancy is complex. The decisions involved require medical judgment, family input, and compassion, not laws written by politicians seeking votes. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood, an organization that has been so vilified in political rhetoric that its actual work is often obscured. If you believed the rhetoric, you'd think it was some sort of supervillain headquarters. In reality, it's mostly cervical cancer screenings and birth control. Planned Parenthood was founded in 1916 by Margaret Sanger, who opened the first birth control clinic in the United States. Her goal was simple: to give women control over their own fertility. At the time, contraception was illegal. Women had no reliable way to prevent pregnancy. Many died in childbirth or from too many pregnancies too close together. Today, Planned Parenthood operates over 600 health centers across the country. And here's something that might surprise you. Abortion is a small fraction of what they do, about 3%. The majority of Planned Parenthood services are preventive healthcare, contraception, cancer screenings, STI testing and treatment, well-woman exams, prenatal care. In many rural areas, Planned Parenthood is the only affordable healthcare option for women. When clinics close, as they have across the country due to funding cuts and restrictions, women lose access not just to abortion, but to the basic healthcare that prevents abortion in the first place. Consider this: Planned Parenthood prevents far more abortions than it performs. Every year, Their contraceptive services prevent an estimated hundreds of thousands of unintended pregnancies. If the goal is truly to reduce abortion, supporting contraceptive access is the single most effective strategy available. Yet the same organizations that attack Planned Parenthood also attack contraception. They oppose comprehensive sex education in schools. They promote abstinence-only programs that have been proven not to work, that, in fact, lead to higher rates of teen pregnancy. This tells us something important about the true agenda. If reducing abortion were really the goal, these organizations would champion contraception and sex education. They don't. What they oppose is not abortion specifically, but women's sexual autonomy altogether. The mask slips. Let's zoom out and look at the world. Because America is not the only country on Earth, despite what American news coverage might suggest, abortion is legal in some form in the vast majority of countries on Earth. The trend globally has been toward liberalization, toward trusting people to make their own reproductive decisions. Ireland, a deeply Catholic country, voted overwhelmingly to legalize abortion in 2018, after decades of suffering under one of Europe's most restrictive laws. The stories that emerged during the campaign were heartbreaking. Women forced to travel abroad for care, women dying from treatable conditions because doctors feared legal prosecution. A young woman named Savita Halappanavar who died of sepsis after being denied a miscarriage treatment. Argentina, another Catholic stronghold, legalized abortion in 2020. The Green Bandana movement, millions of women in the streets, demanding control over their own bodies, changed history. Mexico's Supreme Court decriminalized abortion in 2021. Colombia followed in 2022. Country after country has recognized that criminalization doesn't stop abortion, it only makes it dangerous. Meanwhile, the United States has moved in the opposite direction. The Supreme Court's 2022 Dobbs decision overturned Roe v. Wade, returning abortion policy to the states. America, backing the global trend since 1776, but usually not in this direction. The consequences have been immediate and devastating. Women have been forced to carry unviable pregnancies to term. Doctors have fled states with unclear laws. Emergency rooms have turned away patients in crisis. Women have died. We are watching, in real time, what happens when abortion is criminalized. The suffering of the past is returning. And for what? Abortion rates in the United States were already declining before Dobbs, thanks to increased access to contraception. Criminalization does not save lives. It costs them. At the heart of this issue is a principle so fundamental that it underlies most of our other rights, bodily or autonomy. The right to control what happens to your own body. It seems simple. It is, apparently, controversial. We recognize this right in almost every other context. You cannot be forced to donate blood, even though blood donation is safe and saves lives. You cannot be forced to donate a kidney, even to save your own child. Even after death, Your organs cannot be taken without your prior consent, even though they could save multiple lives. We grant more bodily autonomy to corpses than we grant to pregnant women when we force them to continue pregnancies against their will. Let that sink in. A dead body has the right to decide what happens to its organs, but a living woman, in many states, does not have the right to decide what happens to her uterus. The corpse has more rights. The corpse. Pregnancy is not a minor inconvenience. It is a profound physical experience that transforms the body. It carries real risks. In the United States, maternal mortality is shockingly high for a developed country and rising. It requires months of medical care. It can cause lasting physical changes. It can kill. To force someone to undergo this against their will is a profound violation. It treats the pregnant person as a vessel, not as a human being with rights and dignity, as an incubator with legs. And the logic of forced pregnancy leads to dark places. If a fetus's right to use another person's body supersedes that person's autonomy, what else might follow? Should pregnant people be restricted from activities that might harm the fetus? Should they be criminalized for miscarriages? Should they be forced to have cesarean sections against their will? All of these things have happened. All of these things are happening. This is not hypothetical. This is the logical end point of the idea that a pregnant person's body belongs to someone other than herself. Bodily autonomy is not negotiable. It is the foundation of every other right. Without control over our own bodies, we are not free. We are just cargo. We should also look honestly at the hypocrisy and the cruelty that pervades the anti-abortion movement. Because if we're going to be up at this hour thinking about reproductive rights, we might as well be thorough. First, let's talk about what happens to women after they've had an abortion. Not the medical aftermath, which is typically uncomplicated, but the social aftermath. The quiet devastation of being cast out. In small towns and tight-knit communities, word travels. A woman makes a private medical decision, tells perhaps one person she trusts, and somehow, through gossip, through medical records improperly shared, through someone who saw her car at her clinic, the community finds out. And then the isolation begins. Friends stop calling. Invitations dry up. At church, people shift away in the pews. At school pickup, other mothers cluster together, falling silent. When she approaches, she becomes a pariah, not for any crime, not for any harm done to anyone, but for a private decision about her own body. Imagine a woman, let's call her Sarah. Perhaps Sarah had a wanted pregnancy, only to discover severe fetal abnormalities, a devastating diagnosis, an impossible choice made with her doctor and her family. She is grieving a future that will never be, or perhaps Sarah wasn't ready. She had spent years helping to raise her brother's children when he couldn't cope, changing nappies at 16, missing her own school events to babysit, watching her own dreams defer again and again. She knows, better than most, what raising a child demands, and she knows, with painful clarity, that she is not ready to give that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The decision was not casual. It was one of the most serious she has ever made. Whatever her reasons, Sarah is trying to heal, and she walks into a cafe she's visited 100 times before. The server, perhaps someone she knows, or perhaps a stranger who heard the gossip, looks at her coldly. "I'm sorry," she says, loud enough for others to hear. "I can't serve you. I know what you did." Sarah stands there, humiliated, exposed, her private grief made public spectacle. She leaves without a word. She doesn't go back. She stops going out much at all. But perhaps, and a compassionate person can only hope, Sarah's story doesn't end there. Perhaps the isolation becomes a kind of clarity. Perhaps the cruelty she experienced opens her eyes to how many others have suffered the same. Perhaps she finds her way to a group of women who understand, who refuse to be shamed into silence. Perhaps Sarah joins a pro-choice movement. Perhaps she becomes an advocate for bodily autonomy. Perhaps she tells her story, not in whispers, but out loud, so that others know they are not alone. Perhaps the very cruelty meant to break her becomes the thing that gives her purpose. We can hope, and here is the bitter irony. Study after study has shown that women who identify as anti-abortion have abortions at roughly the same rate as everyone else. Clinic workers have countless stories of protesters showing up as patients, receiving their abortions, and returning to the picket line the next week, sometimes the same week, sometimes holding the same sign. "The only moral abortion is my abortion." This phrase, coined by clinic workers, captures a common phenomenon. Women who believe abortion is murder until they need one themselves. Then their situation is different. Their circumstances are unique. Their abortion is justified. The politicians who vote for abortion bans have been caught paying for their mistresses' abortions. The pro-life leaders who preach abstinence have been exposed for affairs. The family values champions have quietly sent their daughters for procedures while publicly shaming other women. The rules, it seems, are for other people, for poor people, for people without connections, for people who can't afford to fly to another state or another country, for people who don't know the right doctor or have the right credit card. If these laws were really about protecting life, they would apply equally to everyone. They don't. They never have. The cruelty is not incidental. It is the point. So where do we go from here? Besides to sleep. Eventually, the fight for reproductive rights is not over. It is, in many ways, just beginning a new chapter. In state after state, voters have shown that they support abortion access when asked directly. Kansas, a conservative state, overwhelmingly rejected an anti-abortion ballot measure. Michigan, Ohio, Montana, voters have protected reproductive rights even as politicians try to strip them away. It turns out that when you actually ask people what they think, instead of just telling them what to think, the answers are different. This tells us something important. The extreme anti-abortion position does not represent the majority. Most Americans believe that abortion should be legal in at least some circumstances. Most Americans believe that these decisions belong to individuals and their doctors, not to politicians. The path forward involves multiple strategies: legal challenges to the most extreme laws, ballot initiatives to enshrine reproductive rights in state constitutions, voting for candidates at every level who support bodily autonomy, supporting organizations that provide practical help funding travel, providing medication abortion by mail, training providers, and perhaps most importantly, telling our stories. The stigma around abortion has kept people silent, has allowed opponents to define the narrative. But when people share their own experiences, the relief, the gratitude, the simple normalcy of making a private medical decision, it changes minds. 1 in 4 American women will have an abortion by age 45. 1 in 4. These are your neighbors, your co-workers, your family members, your friends. They are not monsters. They are not murderers. They are ordinary people who made ordinary decisions about their own bodies and their own lives. They might be sitting next to you right now. They might be you. The more we talk about this, openly and honestly, the harder it becomes to maintain the stigma. The harder it becomes to pretend that abortion is something that happens to other people, bad people, irresponsible people. It happens to all kinds of people, and they deserve compassion, not condemnation. As we near the end of our time together tonight, let's return to something simple: compassion. That radical, subversive act of treating other people like they matter. Whatever your views on abortion might have been when we started, whatever they are now, I hope we can agree on this: the people facing these decisions deserve compassion. The teenager who made a mistake, who's not ready to be a parent. The mother of 3 who cannot afford another child. The woman whose contraception failed despite doing everything right. The couple who desperately wanted a child only to learn of devastating abnormalities. The survivor of rape or incest. The woman whose pregnancy threatens her life. These are human beings in difficult situations, making difficult decisions. They are not abstractions in a philosophical debate. They are not pawns in a political game. They are people, full, complex, worthy of dignity. And if you yourself have faced this decision, whatever you chose, whatever you felt, whatever you feel now, you're worthy of compassion too. You are not alone. You did what you needed to do. You deserve gentleness, not judgment. Compassion does not require agreement. You don't have to think every abortion is a good decision to believe. The decision belongs to the person facing it, not to legislators or judges or protesters with signs. You don't have to celebrate abortion to support it being safe, legal, and accessible. In fact, those who truly value life should be the strongest supporters of reproductive choice. Because choice is what allows people to have children when they are ready, to welcome them into stable homes, to give them the best possible start. Choice is what keeps women alive, keeps families intact, keeps poverty from perpetuating across generations. The countries with the best outcomes for women and children are not the countries that ban abortion. They are the countries that support families comprehensively, with healthcare, with childcare, with parental leave, with education, with economic opportunity, and trust individuals to make their own reproductive decisions. That is what valuing life looks like in practice. Everything else is just performance. Our journey tonight has taken us through centuries of history, from ancient Egypt to modern America, through shifts in religious doctrine, through the dark years of criminalization, through the brief flowering of reproductive rights, and into our uncertain present. What emerges from this history is not a simple story. It is a story of power. Who has it? Who doesn't? Who gets to make decisions about whose bodies? It is a story of compassion struggling against control, of trust struggling against fear, of freedom struggling against subjugation. The fight is not over. It may never be fully over. But the direction of history, the moral arc, bends toward freedom, toward autonomy, toward trust, toward the radical idea that each person has the right to control their own body, to make their own decisions, to chart their own course through this brief and precious life. Whatever happens politically, whatever laws are passed or struck down, that truth remains. Your body belongs to you. Your choices belong to you. Your life belongs to you. And you are worthy of the freedom to live it as you see fit. Take one more slow, deep breath. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. Tomorrow is another day, another chance to build the world we want to live in, a world of compassion, of choice, of genuine respect for the sanctity of life in all its forms. But for now, there's only rest, only stillness, only peace, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you stayed awake through an entire history of reproductive rights. Well done. Good night.